All of the queries we've written so far are called uncorrelated subqueries, and an uncorrelated subquery doesn't refer to any columns outside of the subquery. It's completely self-contained, and the net result is, let me undo some of these changes, get back to the subquery version. So here's the subquery version. And let me execute that, make sure I stopped at the right place. Good. So this works. Now, I know that it's an uncorrelated subquery because there's nothing in here that refers to any of the tables out here. And the result is that I can execute this subquery completely on its own, and it works correctly. And if I scroll up a little bit, so here's another one. This is an uncorrelated subquery, so I can just select that part, execute it, it works. This is an uncorrelated subquery because I can select that and it works. This is an uncorrelated subquery, and that all works. Same thing here. That works. This works. Oops, hit the wrong button. This works, and so on. But you can also write subqueries that refer to columns outside of the query, that are in the outer query. So for example, let me take this query as an example, and I'm going to make a copy of it down here at the bottom. And let me start with this part. So this is finding the tconst of titles where the director matches a director from name basics. So it's finding David Lynch, who was born in 1946 with no death year, taking the nconst from that row in name basics and then matching a row from title directors or multiple rows from title directors to that nconst. But I can also write this as a correlated subquery like so. So I'm just going to do this part right here. So select tconst from title directors where exists select try that again, select star from name basics where primary name is David Lynch and birth year is 1946 and death year is null and title directors dot nconst equals name basics dot nconst. And that should be it. So let's execute this, and I should get 60984, 62653, 65794. So this should be the same results as I get by executing this query up here. So I have 60984, 62653, 65794. If I execute the subquery, I get 60984, 62653, 65794. So it's the same set of results. And in the subquery, I have 90 results coming back, ends in 7340202. If I execute this query, I get 90 results coming back. Last one is 7340202. So it looks like both of these things are returning the same results. So what is this doing, the new syntax? So it's using this exists predicate. And the way exists works is for each row in title directors, I'm going to run this subquery, and it's going to match the title directors.enconst for this row against namebasics.enconst in the select statement. And this is either going to match one or more rows, or it's not going to match any rows at all. If it matches one or more rows, exists is going to be true, and this row from title directors is going to be included in the final results. If it doesn't match any rows, exists is going to be false, and that row will not be included in the final results. So the bottom line is that if the title director here matches title director here, which is only going to be the one title director where the name is David Lynch and birth year is 46 and death year is null, that row is going to come back in the results, and I'm going to get that in the result set. For any movie in title directors where enconst is not equal to that, for example, I'm just going to make up an enconst. Let's say one of them is NM0000001. This isn't going to match any of the rows in name basics where the name is David Lynch and birth year is 1946. So I don't get any results coming back. But for a movie where the director is David Lynch, that's going to be, what was the number? 186. Yeah, NM0000186. NM0000186. For rows in title directors where the director is that value, I get back a row. So the correlated version, like so, that's going to give me only the movies where David Lynch was the director. Now what happens if you don't correlate the subquery correctly and you're using exists? Well, like for example, I forget to include that. So it may look like I've gotten the right results back because I have a bunch of tconsts, but you see that the query is still executing. And if I scroll to the bottom here, I'm up to 1,690,000 rows, 2,630,000 rows. Basically, I ended up with 3 million rows of results here. So the system thinks that there are 3 million titles that have David Lynch as the director. But what's really going on is this is no longer a correlated query because it doesn't refer to anything in the outside table. And if I execute this query, it returns results. So it's always going to return results. This outer query, it's going to go through one row at a time in title directors. It's going to see whether the subquery returns results. Subquery is always going to return results, and so I end up with all the rows from title directors in this final result set. Now another way to improperly correlate the query is, for example, if I have a bad condition in here, like for example, title directors.tconst equals namebasics.enconst. So I messed up and I'm trying to compare the tconst value from title directors to the enconst value from namebasics. Now, no matter what is in the outer query, this is never going to match. So it's not going to return any results for any rows in title directors. So I don't get any rows coming back. So two ways to mess up the correlation between the subquery and the outer query is to either write it in such a way that this always returns results and I get everything in the outer query, or never returns results and I don't get anything in the outer query. Now, in addition to exists, I can also write correlated subqueries that use not exists. So for example, let's say I want to know all of the shows where Kyle MacLachlan was an actor that did not have David Lynch as a director. Here, I can start with title directors not exists David Lynch. So that's all the directors who are not David Lynch. Actually, all the shows that were not done by David Lynch. And here I can select star from title basics, join title principles on title basics dot tconst equals title title principles dot tconst, and then I want to join that to name basics on title principles dot nconst equals name basics dot nconst. So this is going to be all of the principles for all of the shows, and then I want to select the ones where the category is equal to actor and primary name is equal to Kyle MacLachlan. That's probably MacLachlan. MacLachlan. I'm going to have to look that up probably. Let's see if that works. So this should be all the titles where Kyle MacLachlan was an actor. Yeah, so I didn't spell Kyle MacLachlan correctly. Is it MacLachlan? Okay, I'm going to have to look this up. Select star from name basics where primary name like Kyle MacStar. Let's check that. Oh, I'm sorry. I got my wildcard characters confused for a second. So this is all the mix. There's some MacLachlans. I think it's this one, MacLachlan. And let me try Max. So I think MC MacLachlan. But let me see what we get here. Maybe MacLachlan. See, 1959 for him. So that's a good one. Let's try this one. So Mac L Lachlan. So there's all the shows where Kyle MacLachlan was an actor. Dune, Blue Velvet, The Hidden, Twin Peaks, The Doors. I recognize a lot of these as being Kyle MacLachlan movies, so that's good. And then to find the movies in this set where Kyle MacLachlan was an actor but David Lynch was not the director, I can do that part in a subquery. So I want and not exists, and then I want to find the rows in the outer table that have matches in title directors. Where title basics.tconst equals title directors.tconst and title directors dot enconst equals, and then basically David Lynch here. So for David Lynch, I'm going to do and exists and write another subquery. And this is going to match rows and title directors to rows here. Title directors dot enconst equals name basics dot enconst, and primary name is David Lynch, and birth year is 1946, and death year is null. Okay, so for rows in title directors that match rows in name basics, where name is David Lynch, year is 1946, and death year is null, this is going to return true. So exists is going to be true. This is going to return one or more rows. So exists is going to return true. So those shows will match. And then since it's matching title basics here to title basics here, and using not exists, all of those rows, all of the shows where David Lynch was the director are going to be excluded from the set. So this will include the shows where Kyle MacLachlan was an actor and David Lynch was not the director. So let's go ahead and execute that. Okay, and so I get the Hidden, Dream Breakers, Boyfriend School, The Doors. I'm not getting Twin Peaks or Dune or Blue Velvet, which I know were all directed by David Lynch. So this looks correct. So I have 110 where David Lynch was not the director. If I just execute this much, I get 138 total. Including both ones where David Lynch was the director and was not the director. And if I want to see the ones where David Lynch was the director, I can just change that not exists to an exists. And I get back 28 where David Lynch was the director. Now, working with exists and not exists can be a little confusing at first because it's a different thought process than working with uncorrelated subqueries. With uncorrelated subqueries, you sort of start on the inside and work your way out. So for example, with the uncorrelated subquery, I'd start by finding David Lynch as a director, and then I'd find movies that David Lynch directed, and then I'd find movies that David Lynch didn't direct where the actor was Kyle MacLachlan. But when you're writing correlated subqueries, you really sort of have to start from the outside and work your way in, and make sure that you tie the outer query to the inner query at each step.